Thanks for joining me today. I am up in what I call my upper room, and I'm sitting next to my upper window. And outside my upper window, I can see back into the woods, and I can see a small stream that runs curly Q fashion through the woods. And I can look up into the sky, and it reminds me of the song that I heard many, many years ago about Noah in his upper window, where he could, when the storms were over, that he had an upper window that he could open up, and he let the birds out to see whether or not the water had receded from the earth. And the song goes something along the lines of, from his upper window, he could see God standing by. And that's where I am this morning. I'm in my upper bedroom by an upper window, and I can look out and see what God's created, and know that God promises that He's always present with us. He's standing by. He's a refuge to us. I'd like to share this morning on the subject of safely home. The idea is that we have left home, that we have left God our Father, and we have turned to our own ways, and so we've left home where we're safe. We've left the place where we have a Father, a godly Father, who provides for all of our needs, and we've gone our own way. We've sought our own direction. We have decided that we can provide for ourselves, that we can trust ourselves, and we can trust what the world tells us to be true, and we have left home. And having left home, and that includes me, and I'm quite sure that it includes you and all mankind, having left home and decided that we can provide for ourselves and trust the world to provide for us. That having done that, what we discover is that life is empty, that we're lonely, we're lost, we're directionless, and we need to get back home, safely home. And the good news is that it is possible to become back home. It's possible to be safely home. We can go back, even though it might seem risky to go back. And the video that you're about to watch, or that you're watching right now, is about being safely home. And there will be some videos that will follow that carry along the same idea of being safely home. And that is an introduction of sorts on this day as to what this particular video is about. Simply called Safely Home. There is a story that Jesus told that makes this particular subject very, very poignant, very significant, very plain to us. It's quite moving, and it's found in the Bible in Luke chapter 15. And in this beginning video about being safely home, I'm going to read it to you, make a few comments as I read along, and then we will close this first video with that. I'm reading this morning from Luke chapter 15, beginning with verse 11. This is known as the story or the parable of the lost son. And because it's a very moving and distinguished story that most of us can identify with. I suspect that you already are familiar with the story that Jesus taught. It goes like this. A man had two sons. The younger son told his father, I want my share of your estate now before you die. So his father agreed to divide his wealth between his sons. A few days later, this younger son packed all his belongings and moved to a distant land, and there he wasted all his money in wild living. So he left home. That is what we've all done. We've all decided that we can provide for ourselves, so we don't need to have a relationship with the Father, that we can become independent, pursue our own course in life, and surely out in the world there is much to be offered and then much to be gained. And that's what this young man has done. The story continues. About this time, his money ran out. A great famine swept over the land, and he began to starve. He persuaded a local farmer to hire him, and the man sent him into the fields to feed the pigs. The young man became so hungry that even the pods he was feeding the pigs looked good to him, but no one gave him anything. And we'll pause there, and we see that the man is now empty. He has no provider. He finds that the world's not providing for himself, and he's quite hopeless, wishing himself to have the food that he was feeding to the pigs. When he finally came to his senses, he said to himself, at home, even the hired servants have food enough to spare, and here I am dying of hunger. I will go home to my father and say, Father, I have sinned against both heaven and you, and I am no longer worthy of being called your son. Please take me on as a hired servant. Once again, the young man finds himself empty. He's lonely. He's lost. Life has become about survival rather than a relationship. He cut the relationship from the Father. And when he pursued a lifestyle, a life that was all about self and gain and the world and providing for himself and seeking his own place in life, he quickly discovered that life is empty and his life becomes one of survival rather than relationship. He's left the one who would provide for him and gone his own way, and his relationship with God is broken. And in those verses I just read, the young man says, I will go home. I will confess that I'm wrong. I will confess that I should not have gone my own way. I confess that life is empty, that I'm lost, that I'm lonely, and that I need the provisions of the Father. I need to have the relationship. I need relationship. It's not about me. It's about my relationship with my Father, about being home with Him. So he returned home to his father. That was risky. What would the father do? And that's true of us, that when we've gone our own ways and we have sought our own life and we have decided that we can provide for ourselves and that we can accomplish what we want to accomplish, and we have sought the world, to return back to the Father, to a relationship with God, is risky business in our estimation. What will the father do? Will he say, I told you so? Will the father kick us out? Will the father say, no, I won't provide for you anymore? And the young man at this point is um, going to return home and see if he can return safely. So he returned home to his father, and while he was still a long way off, his father saw him coming. Filled with love and compassion, he ran to his son, embraced him, and kissed him. His son said to him, Father, I have sinned against both heaven and you, and I am no longer worthy of being called your son. Indeed, he had sinned against the Father. Whenever we tell God that we don't need to trust him, that we don't need to be dependent upon him, and we can go our own way, whenever we do that, then we say we don't need to trust you, God. We don't need to depend upon you for anything. I'm my own person. I'll go my own way. That's sin against God. The Bible tells us that whatever is not of faith is sin. And when we go to God and say, I don't need to trust you to provide for me anymore, that is a statement that we don't have any faith in him. We don't think that he has our best in mind. We're saying to him, we don't think that you can provide the things I need. And I am saying to you, I can't put my faith in you doing anything that benefits my goals in life, and I'm going to go my own way. And this young man has realized that kind of sin, that he broke the relationship, that he was not trusting his father, he was trusting himself, and he was trusting the world. And upon returning back home, he confesses that sin. But the father said to the servant, Quick, bring the finest robe in the house and put it on him. Get a ring for his finger and sandals for his feet, and kill the calf we have been fattening. We must celebrate with a feast. For this son of mine was dead and has now returned to life. He was lost, but now he is found. So the party began. That's a good passage. The Father has received him openly. He's found that he could renew the relationship with the Father. He has found that he could be home safely again and be restored to that relationship with the Father, where the Father is going to provide everything. You see that in what was read. The Father is very willing to provide everything to celebrate the return of the Son. Meanwhile, the older son was in the field working. When he returned home, he heard music and dancing in the house, and he asked one of the servants what was going on. Your brother is back, he was told, and your father has killed the fattened calf. We are celebrating because of his safe return. Safe return. To be away from the Father is not a safe place, but you can return to the Father and return to a safe place. The older brother was angry and wouldn't go in. His father came out and begged him, but he replied, All these years I have slaved for you and never once refused to do a single thing you told me to do. And all that time you have never given me one young goat for a feast with my friends. Yet when this son of yours comes back after squandering your money on prostitutes, you celebrate by killing the fattened calf. The brother was angry. His father said to him, Look, dear son, you have always stayed by me, and everything I have is yours. We had to celebrate this happy day, for your brother was dead and has come back to life. He was lost, but now he is found. He was safely home. That story told by Jesus is meant for me, and it's meant for you. And it communicates to us that even though I have been like the young man who decided to go my own way, and just like you have more than likely made that same decision to go out into life and do your own thing and become dependent upon yourself and to separate yourself from the Father, that it's possible, as Jesus tells in this story, to return home, and return home, even though it seems risky, to return home and to be safely restored to relationship with the Father. If that happens to be your condition, where you realize that your life is empty, that life is really nothing more than about survival, day by day trying to survive and make a go of it, that your life is marked by um, an empty relationship or empty relationships, that there seems to be no one who cares about you, and no one you can depend on, and no one who is willing to come alongside you. The good news from Jesus' story is that it's possible to return, confess that you've done wrong, and the Father will welcome you back and embrace you safely home.